Okay, hello GLBIO. My name is Mitchell, and I am the outreach lead for the Genome Informatics group at OICR. For this lightning talk that accompanies my poster, I'll be providing a brief background of Overture, what it is, and how it can make genomics data accessible and discoverable. It will be a relatively quick talk, so when you do have questions, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you or link you to the various friendly experts that we have on our team. So, a bit of background. Our group has had the privilege of building and maintaining multiple large-scale repositories, notably and initially ICGC and the NIH GDC data portal. These are two large-scale projects, and from these experiences, we really learned a lot about organizing vast amounts of dispersed genomics data into these discoverable data portals. Now, specifically, we're going to talk about the core requirements that we learned that are needed to build these end-to-end genomic data management systems. Now, I call this filling the gaps between data and discovery, and there's 5 core components required in order to do this. The first being submission tracking and validation, specifically talking about the metadata. We also need file transfer and object storage of the associated file data. And then furthermore, we need to take all of this data and then we need to index it in order to make it available for search APIs to filter and query. And then to bring it all together, you need to have an authorization and user management system to not only authenticate who a user or application is, but also authorize what a user or application is allowed to do. Now, although this list is not exhaustive, with these core components, we can build end-to-end genomics data management systems that make data accessible and discoverable. Now, following these 2 major projects, we continued to develop similar data portals, but began to realize we were spending a lot of time on repetitive and redundant programming efforts. So we really wanted to work smarter, not harder. And this was the advent of Overture. So Overture is a microservice architecture that covers all of the gaps that we discussed prior. So we have Song for submission tracking and validation, Score that covers file transfer and object storage, Maestro that indexes all the data. We have Arranger, which is doing quite a lot. It's our search API with pre-built UI components that allow users to filter and query the datasets. And finally, we have Ego that brings it all together, providing our authorization and authentication services. So all in all, what Overture is doing is it's reducing repetitive and redundant programming efforts while also addressing dispersed genomics data with scalable and purpose-driven software components. So Overture is now powering many exciting projects, past, present, and future, and we are now trying to make these open source software microservices not just for us, but accessible to the research community at large. Now that we have a bit of background, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper and show you how Overture microservices work and how they can be used to organize genomics data and ultimately make it discoverable. To do this, I'm going to give a brief overview of how data moves through our core components, and that's going to start with Song. So when we submit data, in this case maybe a variant call file, we also need to submit the metadata associated to that file. And in Song, this combination of metadata and data is called an analysis. Now, all metadata is recorded within an analysis JSON file, and this JSON file contains and references the data files, typically sequence reads or VCFs, and all the associated metadata. At the top of our submitted JSON, we're going to define what our analysis type is, or otherwise known as our user-defined schema. This separate JSON document describes what's expected in terms of structuring and formatting of the submitted JSON file. All submitted metadata is verified against a JSON schema, ensuring that all the required fields are present and that the contents of the fields match the desired data type and the allowed values. With the analysis JSON formatted correctly, or if the analysis JSON is formatted correctly, it will then pass through Song and get committed to the Song repository, where it will generate an automated analysis ID. Our next step is to then generate what's called a manifest, and this is going to be done through Score. So we're looking at the file upload process. So using our newly generated analysis ID, we can now create a manifest for file upload. The manifest establishes a link between the analysis ID that has been submitted and the data files that are on your local system that are being uploaded. With a manifest generated, you can then use an upload command to upload your raw data files to object storage, where they'll be linked to this analysis ID. Our next step then is to publish this data and index it so that it's ready for search. Now, by default, all song analyses that are created are in an unpublished state. So the first step is to use song in order to update that data into a published state, which then allows it to be indexed by Maestro. To index an analysis that is published in Maestro, it's a simple post command. And then once indexed, we have one Elasticsearch index that can then be consumed by Arranger. Now, Arranger is a search API, but it's more than that. It also has reusable and configurable UI components, specifically a faceted search that you can see on the left, as well as a sorted table that you can see on the right. This allows you as a user or researcher to organize and sort through the data and then download the data sets or share them with other groups or labs or individuals. Of course, we need to do this securely, and that's why we have Ego, which is our permission management system. It comes with an Ego UI that makes these admin duties accessible to all collaborators and also supports single sign-on identity providers. So that covers it, and it was very fast, so I understand if you have questions. There's no way you can understand it all from this alone, but I'd just like to thank you for listening to the presentation. Information in terms of how to get started, learn more, get involved, or find some support is located on the screen here. I'd like to give credits to the Genome Informatics group, who are doing all of the heavy lifting here. And I'd also like to acknowledge the funding agencies that support Overture. Without them, Overture could not exist. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day.